Hello, everybody. Mothership has landed in Bali. And in the spirit of Health Awareness Month, we wanted to bring you content that is centered around self-care and taking care of oneself because, as we know, you bring your whole self to work. And if you're not okay personally, how could anybody expect you to perform at your best professionally? And so I happen to be in Bali, and here I am with the founder of Goddess Retreats here in Bali. And I'd like to welcome my guest today, Chelsea Ross.
Thank you for having me here, Ilyse. It's a
Thank
pleasure to have you with us here in Bali at Goddess Retreats.
Thank you so much, Chelsea. And just what a beautiful, beautiful experience you've created here.
Thank you.
And so we're going to run through a few very important pieces today centered around mental health, taking care of oneself, and all the things. And then, of course, we'll, ask Chelsea a few questions and give you guys a nice guided tour around the property so that if you can't get here physically, you could get here in spirit and you can work towards making this something that is part of your journey as well. So I'll jump right in. I have my notes here on my phone, as I usually do. And we'll go into a few very important key components of mental health and self-care.
Sure.
So we're bringing this from a lens, and we're talking about this from a lens of, work-life balance. Mm-hmm. And Mothership is a platform that is really centered around sustainability and environmental social governance, mm-hmm. because it's really the kind of solution that enables people to work any which way, anywhere in the world. And what that does for people, and the importance of that, is it enables people to have a work-life balance. And it also, of course, enables the environment to reduce carbon footprint and to provide more sustainable solutions with, additional supply in the market. And so it combats a lot of these, personal and sustainability and environmental issues that we see coming out of the traditional, old school, as we say, way of working. So these are the things that are very, very important to us and are the core and the center of why we do what we do and why we feel that it's so important to do what we do outside of just bringing people additional opportunities. Of course, there's so much more to the equation. So let's understand mental health in the workforce. And so the old way of work versus the new way of work, and how has the workforce changed? So, Chelsea, I know you can speak a lot to this because there happens to be quite a clientele here that is executives. It's an all-women retreat, actually, and there's a lot of benefits to the female energy, to, of course, having this experience as a female executive, and nobody could speak more to that than Chelsea. So I'd love to hear from you, Chelsea, what do you see is the so important as part of the experience and of the kinds of clientele that you bring here?
Yeah, I think actually when I was setting up Goddess Retreats, before I embarked on doing the retreats, I was a work-life balance coach.
You were working in corporate setting?
I was actually. We did value-added sales training to companies like IBM, Unilever, and I was a corporate coach teaching work-life balance. And we do all these workshops, and just through a series of events, I ended up creating the first women's only surf and yoga retreat. But initially I was thinking about doing a coaching retreat, but thought, it's going to be too heavy to do something like that. But really, actually, at the core of Goddess Retreats is the idea of it's actually a life coaching week on teaching women how to empower themselves and also find ways to find balance. And what I found over the years is that our retreats are very attractive to professional women. I think because that was the background that I came from. Our main guests are women who are professionals who are trying to find some experience that they can find a rejuvenating experience in a short period of time, in a week. So by coming here, I've sort of tried to incorporate all the sorts of things that you would have in a traditional kind of life coaching session, but in an experiential way. It's hidden, it's implicit.
Right.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So, let's hear more about that, because I love that, to have something that's hidden so that it doesn't have to be so overt, so blatant, that it could, set off a lot of other chain reactions, right? So you want something that just is subliminal and therefore effective, right?
Because a lot of the things that, you would coach on would be in work-life balance is, sorry, I'm probably we'll cut that bit, sorry.
It's okay.
You're so much more articulate than me.
Don't worry. This is not, we do not have to be perfect. This is just, an exploration of, real life. Yeah. And so don't worry about it. Just let it flow as it comes to you. Right.
Okay. Yeah, so how I set up the program. So initially we started with just a surf program and then moved on to other programs. But inside all that was always about our bliss days. Again, following what sparks your spirit. Right. I think that's one of the most important things about finding work-life balance, is that the first part of finding that balance is finding that thing outside of work that you just naturally invigorates you feel inspired by. We have to have that part outside of work. If we're just working and then there's nothing outside of work, then it's draining, right?
Right.
So part of the exploration in the retreats is that we allow the space for each guest to really kind of tailor their experience on what they would like to do. And I realize there's people who like to be artistic, so we do things like batik and jewelry making. We have women who want to release a lot of energy and are very sporty, so we do things like surfing and going hiking in Mount Batur and the cycling. And then there's also a lot of women who come who just need some downtime and to rest and rejuvenate. Right. And that's a lot. Everybody needs to rest and rejuvenate. I think that's, again, one of the things I think we've really learned coming out of the traditional work model, is really the importance of filling the well. Is that, we can't just keep going, and then you retire. It just doesn't work that way.
Right.
It's a marathon, and we need to honor our energy levels, our creativity levels. So on the retreats, we're really trying to address all those, like I say, in an implicit way. So it's not really about sitting down in a circle and, going through a lot of intense, workshop it out,
right, or, essays.
Write down, and a lot of journaling, all that. We provide space, but really it's really about presenting a lot of opportunities that create kind of the ideal week in a way. So, our saying here is awaken, inspire, and celebrate the goddess in you. So awaken for me means to reconnect with yourself. So sometimes too, when we're in the work mode, we're so heady. So it's really about coming in and reconnecting with ourselves as women and people outside of work, and then inspire is a huge part of it. So that's why we offer so many different types of activities for women to really find either things that, like I say, spark your spirit, or there's physical challenges like surfing, and climbing a mountain. They're hugely, and even just traveling solo across the globe.
Oh my God.
There's so many different ways that we quietly empower ourselves, and I love that. So, and the beautiful thing about the retreats is that they can meet everybody at the level they feel comfortable at. Right. But by getting just outside of that comfort zone, then when we do that, and then we've accomplished something, we've tried something new, and especially as we get older, we become really good at the things we're good at. So this is a wonderful opportunity, as adults, to try something new and have a beginner's mind and to explore something different, and then meet that and then go, oh, look at me. I learned how to surf at 45,
Right.
I learned how to paint batik, or I just made a piece of jewelry. Whatever works.
Right.
I think that's hugely empowering.
Absolutely.
And then one of the things that we do on the retreats is that we like to give everybody lots of different tastes of things. So let's say with our fitness program, it's not really about like, you're going to whip into shape in 1 week. Of course you are going to get the health benefits, but we love to give a selection of all the different types of exercises. Same with our wellness program, lots of different types like acupuncture, colonic therapy, sound baths, all different modalities of things, so that the idea is that women can go home and then maybe seek out those modalities at home, particularly because we're a wellness retreat.
Right.
So the idea is to learn something new, take something home and go, that really worked out well. Like yin yoga is so wonderful for professional women.
Right.
For them to then go home and find, that was my big thing I used to love to do, is the yin yoga on a Sunday to get ready for the whole week ahead, because it's really calming for the adrenal system.
Absolutely.
So to introduce, that's what I see as the role of Goddess Retreats, is to introduce women to a lot of different things that will reconnect them to themselves, inspire them, feel they're well, make them feel and celebrate the uniqueness of who they are, because each one of us has unique things that make us happy, and what we also contribute.
Right.
So it's really about celebrating that.
Right, and I love that, and it's so amazing how you explained it. And first of all, tomorrow's Mother's Day. I don't know if we're going to be able to get this up during Mother's Day, but not only is it Mental Health Awareness Month, but it's also Mother's Day, which is again another great celebration of women. And we're coming at this today from an angle of the female lens, because we're at the Goddess Retreats. But I cannot also stress the importance of just how this is the kind of thing that's so important for everybody, right? So for women, but also for men, for everybody to be able to have this. So don't worry, guys, we've got something coming for you, and we'll get to that, not today, but another day. We'll definitely do a segment tailored also to the male energy and what men need, because there's always the yin and the yang. But what I do want to also just expand on there is how, not only, to your point, Chelsea, is it so important for psyche and for being able to do these kinds of things, as you said, at any age, and to say, wow, they were, to see what's possible, and to see what people are made of, as far as where they can stretch and where their abilities can stretch, and where their, not just their skills can stretch, but where their overall spirit and mind and body can stretch to expand, right? We're an expansive, humanity, and it's an expansive world, of course. We believe that's very much so here at Mothership. And the point is to say, not only is it great for the individual, but it is great for the corporation. It's great for the people that hire these individuals. And something that we also wanted to touch on is how today people want to work for companies that encourage well-being. So not only do people want to align with their values over title, by the way, or even compensation. So that's actually a fact, that people want to work for those kinds of organizations. But if we switch, flip the script, so to speak, and to your point, organizations do and should want to really get behind and back these kinds of programs, because they get to really enjoy the benefit of having a very well-rounded individual, a happy, healthy workforce, and an expansive workforce, and a workforce that's able to grow through these personal experiences. And then they bring that back to the work that they're doing. So perhaps they have a fear or a limited belief system of, I'm only able to do X. And perhaps their manager is trying to teach them how to learn something else. And there might be a trauma, there might be some sort of reason why they feel they're only able to do certain things. And through these kinds of experiences, from a personal angle, I think it's a great way to expand the knowledge and the capabilities of those individuals to say, oh, wow, I could do so much more than I ever thought possible. And I'm not afraid anymore, because I put myself out there and I learned how to surf, and I put myself out there to travel, to your point, by myself to Bali. And all of that just as you said, credit versus a debit, and credits the individual and credits the organizations that make this a priority and are not just transactional hiring managers, right? These are people that understand that there's a lot more than the transaction.
Yeah, and I think that's what also, like with the evolution of business and workplace, I think there's an evolution in travel, because also it's similar for the women who come here, and you know this can definitely apply to men. I just started this because 20 years ago there wasn't anything for solo traveling women, so you know,
Right.
but this also applies for men, absolutely. But to be able to come to a space that is unlike a hotel, because 20 years ago or 22 years ago, there really was only like, you had either backpacking or you had hotel stays. There really wasn't anything else there.
Right.
Or you had like, you know, 10-day silent meditation retreats. You know, that was kind of what was on offer. Obviously now that's changed a lot over the time. But one of the beautiful things about coming here is it is about the activities and doing that, but throughout the week too, everybody goes through a journey, and that's the retreat part, is that we are guiding people on a transformative internal journey, usually through exploration, which is wonderful. And the other magic part about what makes a retreat so special is that by bringing together, in this case, women, we also create this space where there's a lot of like life experience, work experience, relationship experience exchanged amongst the women, which is incredibly powerful, and we're here to support that space. And that exchange of ideas and perceptions and everything is absolutely one of the most valuable parts of the retreat. And that's brought by the guests themselves.
Right.
So, and what you're talking about, that expansive mode, what I've really found is that the majority of our guests are women who want to keep on growing and exploring and growing and exploring. They have that expansive way of, that's the type of person that's naturally attracted to these retreats.
Right.
You know?
They want to expand.
So, and that is somebody that you want to have in your workforce, because you want somebody who doesn't want to just sit there and go, okay, I'm just going to go through the motions for the next 20 years. You want people who want to like seek where they can keep growing and expanding.
Absolutely.
So it's like the perfect, in that way, I guess it is also the perfect nurture for that kind of personality type.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why we make it so important here at Mothership.
Yeah.
And we encourage everybody to make it so important, because you're right, to get that expansive individual is just invaluable, I think, to any project, to any initiative, to any company that invests in their people.
Yeah.
It comes back in spades, right? Exactly to your point. They don't need to just do one thing. You know, now they can do many things, and they can do them at a quality level, and they can come to the table with, emotional intelligence, and, so important for all the things that they're doing, more than people really understand. And so for us, our screening process, for example, is very much about hard skills and soft skills.
Yeah.
And EQ is a very big part of what we screen for. And this is a great way to hone that skill and to really, expand your workforce, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because among the different challenges and the different experiences during the weeks, people do run up against that comfort zone, and that's where women can develop, can have a chance to develop their EQ in a way of like, okay, I'm with new people, I'm doing something new. You do get outside of your comfort zone. I'm sure there's been a bit here, even just a different culture. Like there's just there are natural things inside the retreats that are going to find people's edges. So it's like, how can we, and then we also provide like the tools to keep us centered. So the yoga, the massages, the pool time, all those things are there to help us to learn to self-regulate and develop emotional, intelligence in different situations. That's the implicit part again.
Right, and how valuable, right? And I love how you really do, we'd like to, as you can tell from us, attack things from all sides, right? And so I love how you're doing that here, and it's true, because it's not just about one massage and you're done, and suddenly you're just, bigger, brighter, better, you know what I mean? But it's about all the things, and the mind, the body, the spirit, and I've been so impressed with how you're doing that here. And and also what's so at the core of all of this is really something that we take very seriously, which is really so much also centered around what we do is community.
Yes.
Right. And so the point is also no one's just doing this in a silo. You're not, there's benefit, I think, to just maybe a solo trek or a solo trip by yourself. And of course there's things to learn and glean from that. But I find that sometimes the best work and the most growth is realized in community.
Absolutely. Yeah, even though the majority of our guests are solo travelers, the idea is that it's actually a community event.
Right.
You know, it's not a solo event.
Right.
What I found was that a lot of professional women, this is for myself, like once I got over 30, it's hard to coordinate holidays with family, friends, you know. So again, I had the choice back in the day of either going to a hotel alone or backpacking, and I didn't want either of those. So I wanted to create a space where women could come on holidays by themselves, but immediately be put into a group of like-minded women. So it is about community. So even though you're having the adventure on your own, and there's the opportunity obviously to take some time for yourself, but really it is about the group. That's why we have a start date and an end date, because we want to create that group dynamic. It's one of the, like I say, it's one of the real hidden gems of the retreat is the community that the women have. Because I think also too, you know, although it's wonderful that the workforce is much more flexible and able to travel around the world, I think one of the things that we all can sometimes feel is that even if we're connected via technology, sometimes we have a sense of disconnection, and we can be in a big city and still feel alone. And I think one of the things that we really value at the retreats is physically getting women together. That's why, you know, yesterday when we're all around the table smelling the different aromatherapies and telling our stories, and that to me really excites me, because I love being around physically other people, because we can spend so much time online. So I think that in itself is a way to fill the well. And the same with also like coming into nature. That's obviously a big part of our retreats, is getting people, you know, touch grass, like in the most, or touch rice, you know, whatever.
Exactly. And, you know, it might be foreign for those from, you know, Manhattan and all the areas that, you know, I'm quite used to living in and working in, etc. The concrete jungle versus the real jungle. This is the jungle. This is the real jungle. And there's definitely a spirit awakening. There's a completely different side of self to be explored here and to be expanded upon. And to your point about, you know, the community piece, right? And the digital nomad piece, because of course we represent so many digital nomads here, and not only do we provide the technology to enable them, but we've always been really, really focused on not just providing the technology and also providing a personal experience. You know, our workspaces are focused on that, our partnerships with workspace companies like International Workplace Group, for example, so important. And the mobility piece we provide for our clients is so much about this in-person opportunity, you know, the value of in-person growth, the value of community for how it relates to teams and, you know, getting along with one another. And obviously, you know, if they say, you know, it takes, teamwork makes the dream work, right? But of course, this kind of experience can really help people to just be a better team player, a better team member, and to also operate within those community environments like a ninja, so to speak, right? Right.
I think one of the most beautiful things that I think a lot of guests discover is that when we come together and we're in this environment, women share a lot of stories and they share a lot about themselves, because it's a great, you know, space to be able to open up a bit. And when we do that and we share it, we come to learn that we're all having this human experience, and all of us everybody's going through something. That's the secret to life, is to understand that everybody is going through something. Everybody has their wins, everybody has their challenges. And when we can share that humanity, we realize that we're not alone. And actually a lot of people are sharing the same journey with us, maybe with slightly different details. And that's wonderfully reassuring and liberating.
It's just like a happy place.
It is.
Right.
You're like, I'm not alone. Oh, and then if you know, sometimes we can share some wisdom about how to get through different situations. That's why it's sometimes really nice when we have intergenerational, because some people might have gone through something, and you know, and just learnings, and it's just invaluable. So,
100%. It
know?
is, to your point, invaluable.
Yeah.
And that is such a delineation between the old world and the new world.
Yeah.
And with purpose, right? I mean, there's a reason for this. This isn't something that just happened because, right? It happened because there was breakdown.
Yeah.
There was, you know, stress and issues and, you know, illness and lack of productivity and breakdowns, right? And this is where I think it's just become so important to prioritize, and we call it, you know, talent well-being, right? And so the well-being piece is just, as we said, so important to the bottom line, to the top line, and a happy, healthy workforce is beneficial for everybody. So I think that old school way of come to work and leave your problems at the door was a great, you know, and by the way, I'm a proponent to a certain extent of, hey, when you're on the job, get the job done, right? Because there's a time and a place, but at the same time, it's not realistic when you're dealing with humans. And of course, we talk so much about AI. We talk so much about, you know, robotics and digital and all of that. But the human-centric workforce is something that we value just as much because it's so important, as we said, and that is where essentially it's not okay to leave it at the door anymore. It's not okay, and it's not realistic dealing with a human workforce to expect that of people and to essentially make them burrow away those feelings, bottle them up, and all the residual that comes from that, right? Which might be anger, sadness, and you think that it's being left at the door, but you'll quickly find in a corporate setting or in a meeting, or if somebody says something that, you know, the landmines that are not being addressed from a personal level show up in business, show up in negotiations, show up in your projects. And so the check it at the door mentality, I think, is an old paradigm that just no longer serves anybody. But again, time and place, and this is such a great place to do that.
I think that works in with your idea of that work-life balance. You know, I agree with you. It's like we have to show up as professionals, you know, even though we're in the wellness thing, we show up as professionals, and there's a time and place for everything, but the best way that we know that we can show up and be professional and put aside, you know, personal issues for the time that we're here is that outside of work is to address it and to make sure that we're, you know, looking after ourselves, looking after our mental wellness, looking after our physical wellness, you know, and so that mind, body, spirit wellness, you know, and by having that centered outside of work, then when you come to work, not only are you bringing all your gifts and talents and your focus, but then you can be like, this is about work. You know, you don't have to drag your personal life in with you, because that's not fun either. Is when you, like you say, you get these eruptions, and you know, and in the past it was like that. You know, my father was a corporate man for a long time, and you know, and the emotional landscape in there was not necessarily pristine. You know, because it was like you just work and then things. So I think the new way of actually again finding that balance. Is so important. Right.
And you see it a lot. So you see it in the corporate setting now being a priority, you know, you know, companies like, you know, Google, for example, you know, having these great, you know, massage rooms and setups, right, within the environment, really interesting. But of course, there's the value of additional work that just can't be done, even if you're providing this on site. Doing it off site can provide another whole host of benefits.
Yeah, I kind of feel like definitely on-site has its values, and then there's something, you know, about that neuroplasticity. I think there's something to do with travel and taking yourself into a completely different environment that gives you a really good perspective on your life and situation. So when I was life coaching, one of the biggest things I used to talk to people about was like why it's so good to travel and to kind of get out of your life, because it's sort of like if you're holding your hand up to your face and I said, tell me where the lines are on your hand, and it was right here, you can't see them. So you need to pull it away to be able to see everything. And that's another thing that happens on retreats or if you go travel, is that you get the physical distance from the situation, allows you some mental distance too, and allows you to have a different perspective on it for a second. So I think definitely having, you know, wellness pods and massages and all those sorts of things are really valuable in, you know, in the daily workplace.
Right.
Having all those ways to help self-regulate and everything, but then also having those little like retreats, like little breaks.
Right, those getaways, that bird's eye perspective, so to speak,
yeah,
right?
And it just gives you that opportunity to take a little step back and see it from a distance, which is always great to get your perspective.
Absolutely, I love
Fine-tuned.
that. Fine-tuned, and yes, just from a different angle, right?
Yeah,
because
different angle.
You're right. Sometimes you're too close to something, and you really just can't, see the wood for the trees, so to speak,
true,
right?
True. Yeah.
Until you come out into the trees, you get a different view, right?
Do. You just do. Yeah.
And I love that because we talk a lot here about we call our ecosphere and our technology interfaces that connect to each other. Conduit as a service. So it's really a conduit that connects silo databases, silo communities with one another. First to solve hiring, to make it a lot more seamless and to make it Uberized and to really just allow this search and match opportunity versus this search and find opportunity, right? Which I believe people don't need to be found. They just need to be connected with each other. And that is just something that applies to work and technology and all the things, but it really applies internally to the person, to the connection with oneself, and connection with each other on a well-being level, on a personal level. So it's not just about the connection of tech and the connection of, we talk a lot about the connection of data and the connection of data points. But then you start to drill down and you see how the connection to oneself, the connection to the different pieces of oneself are so important to aid that holistic view and to really drive that symbiotic, holistic solution that is, multifaceted and really needed beyond just, as we're saying, the technology and the data points and the work, really to have that additional point of connection with one another, ourselves, and this beautiful world that we live in, that we should get to enjoy. And from a digital nomad perspective, I mean, we're talking a lot about corporate, but let's not forget the great independence that we represent, the entrepreneurs, the freelancers, the ones that work for themselves and that are able to do so from anywhere in the world, enabled by our solutions, enabled by other solutions, and enabled by themselves, just setting up their lives to do so, right? And to pick a career that can be done from anywhere, and it doesn't have to be any more from the four walls of a certain corporate location. And those guys get to do this all day, every day, and make their money, and get the jobs that they want to get, and not just do it as a vacation, but they also get to do it as a way of life. They can actually live abroad, not just visit. And there's that whole side of the house that I love, and I wanted to just, bring that today as well, and recognize that entire community of creators, of entrepreneurs that are, doing it that way.
What a wonderful opportunity. I think that's one of the greatest shifts in the workplace that we'll see in my lifetime, is that digital nomad, and what an ideal opportunity. And I've always been very interested in that. While I'm sort of located here, we have a lot of digital nomads, and I think again it's that nice balance of having the freedom to travel, and then also having a community and a kind of a focal point to like connect back into, because sometimes I know digital nomads can feel like they're out there on their own a little bit, 100%. And it's nice to have that connectivity back into a community, support system. Yeah, I think that's again, it's that balance.
Absolutely. And we love providing that for people. And we've had people say, oh my God, I'm so glad to know that this existed, because I thought I had to do it on my own. And that's something that I just love about what we do here, is to be able to do that for others, exactly to your point, that they're not alone.
Yeah, because as an entrepreneur, when I was setting up and doing this, there's times where you feel like I'm out here alone, and it's a thrilling ride. If you're an entrepreneur, like you love the thrill.
Of course.
But also there's the fear.
Right.
And there's times when you'd like to just be like, can I just connect in? Like, can I connect in with somebody? Can you, like having a support system is so important. So it's great. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we learn from each other that way, right?
Yeah.
We learn from each other from many, many miles away. I mean, how cool that, like, the Balinese, for example, can get connected to, the Western world and their perspectives, right? And it's not just done with social media in this very kind of personal way, but it's also connected to their livelihood, to their work, and and also to their personal, right? So, love that. Thanks, Jess. So, I wanted to just talk a little bit about ethical AI and machine learning. So here we are talking all about the human side, right?
Yeah.
And so it's also pretty cool to see some people allowing mental health support through these kinds of technology solutions. And I happened to be fortunate enough to be in a Techstars cohort with some amazing entrepreneurs and some amazing women, actually, women entrepreneurs. And one friend, Brooke, and if Brooke will allow us to, cite her here, but she's got this incredible company, and it's called VR Eval. And what they do is they actually help to promote really trauma therapy through technology and through really this virtual reality experience. So I think that's so cool that people can actually have those kinds of experiences with technology, not always having to travel, right? I mean, it's not always possible for everybody to be able to incur the time, incur the expense, etc. And so technology such as VR Eval are able to do these kinds of things. Also want to make sure that I mention Vabo, which is the company that actually helped us to find you and this retreat.
Great.
And they help to curate these kinds of experiences for individuals. So I want to thank them for that as well. So that's really the human side of doing what it is, what we're doing to here. And then we also have a partner, and they're known as Adios, but they actually are now being marketed in the US as Contemplate. And they are a mental fitness company. And we've offered this, and we still continue to offer it as a benefit to our community of members, that they get access to this technology that helps them to learn how to think and really to increase their mental fitness, right? We talk a lot about right, physical fitness, we talk a lot about emotional fitness, we talk a lot about that. And the mental fitness we talk about, but the how do we get more fit, right? And through these expansive experiences, as we said, and then through some of these technologies and modalities that we love to, partner with and that we love to get behind, just as we love to do this with Goddess, is to really let people know that you can really expand your mind, you can increase your mental fitness, and it's something that is so important because we spend so much time on all the other things. And Tarun, who's the founder of that company, he talks a lot about how yoga and meditation are so important, but also just the power of thinking, the power of just doing nothing and just thinking and taking the time. And I'm very guilty of this because my calendar runs back to back, and it's a constant exercise and practice for me to get it back in check and to have a flow and to allow myself the time to just think. And the amount of inspiration that comes from that, the amount of clarity that comes from that is so invaluable. So I want to talk about Tarun and Contemplate and what they're doing and how it's such a great modality for people to tap into on top of all the other things, to your point.
Yeah, I think that's one of the really positive things to come out of AI.
Right.
Is because the reality is that we can't be on retreat all the time, and we can't be traveling around all the world all the time.
Why not?
I know. Maybe for a digital nomad you can, but even then, it's like in our day-to-day life, how can we use technology to help us to center ourselves, to create emotional intelligence, to find that space. So I think that for me, that is the ideal use of AI. Like, you know, AI is not inherently good or bad. It's actually what we generate from it. So if it's helping to generate wellness, then isn't that a fabulous way to use it?
Absolutely, we agree. And I believe that about AI because, you know, we are essentially, you know, our technology are, you know, they're machine learning backed interfaces, and people can actually switch that on or off depending on their feelings towards, you know, that kind of thing. But the point is, it's supposed to be supportive, right? And not, you know, not the big bad wolf, so to speak, right? But the point is that it takes a lot off our back if we allow it to, and if there's governance around it and we do it the right way. And we're very big here on ethical AI, advanced AI, because we don't want, you know, just general AI that we feel is a little bit more of a kamikaze pilot, so to speak, with a lot of bias baked in. So we're very thoughtful about the AI that we create here, and so that it is something that is a benefit, something that is supportive to the human community and assistive, but, you know, from an intelligence, with an intelligence lens, right? Not just with a very general slapstick kind of lens, right? Something that's thoughtful and that is, you know, multifaceted, but really intelligent. And I'm very proud of us and our community helping us to foster that kind of AI. And I look forward to working more with our community to do that, because, and you'll see us talk about this a lot, about how a lot of AI companies are just leaving the workforce off the table as far as the AI that they're creating.
Yes.
Have you seen this, Chels?
I've heard that, you know, and I do follow it a lot, just how one of the applications of AI is to literally take a workforce, like you say, off the table and replace workforces, which is, you know, I would imagine it's a big threat to many different kinds of professions in a way, you know.
That's especially not with a construct in place to allow people to feel secure and that they could support themselves. That has to be there.
So that's the other side of AI, and I think that's definitely going to be a very interesting journey that we're going to be navigating in the coming years.
Right.
So definitely, again, with that, being a professional, I would be understanding about really looking at who we are, how we're looking after ourselves, what our skills and talents are, growing that, developing community connections. All those things are going to be actually really even more important in a place where you've got AI, you know, infiltrating the workspace in, you know, positives or not so positive ways in some, you know, industries.
Right. It's going to be very interesting. And you know, we talk about hybrid, or we talk about how, you know, you know, there'll be robotics or, you know, intelligence and artificial intelligence. And then, of course, there's the human intelligence. And then they say that humans that don't use AI will just be replaced with humans that do. Not that all humans will be replaced with AI. But I think that, you know, it's one thing to turn around and say that to the workforce, but I think it's another thing to really shepherd the workforce and to help the workforce to not have that be the case for them to get left behind, so to speak, right? And we take that responsibility very seriously, and I urge all the corporations out there to take that responsibility very seriously, again, because they are a product of their workforce, and their products are, you know, created and backed by their workforce. And AI is I think, just better served with those knowledge holders contributing to that and constantly being a part of that, because the human intelligence is expansive. Right? And AI, you know, is only going to expand, I think, if it's going to be able to be connected to that expansive consciousness. So when people talk about it replacing it, I always think, well, good luck, because you're going to get a certain product that's not going to expand beyond what it's necessarily programmed to do, because it just doesn't have the natural capacity that humans do. What do you think about that?
I agree with you on that. I think, you know, there's a lot of talk about AI and singularity and consciousness, if we go into the thought of consciousness, because I'm a believer, you know, that human consciousness cannot be matched by AI. And ultimately, it can be programmed, but there is something very special about human consciousness
Right.
that I don't think can be ultimately reproduced.
Right.
I think we can come close, but it won't. And I think that's why I think it's just so important for us to really, like when we dive into ourselves, we are such, like, that's why we call it goddess retreats, because we all have a divine spark. That's my belief.
I really believe that.
And divine consciousness,
Right.
you know, that is unique to ourselves, and it is
Right.
expansive, and our human journey is to really explore that. And by exploring and seeing and learning, it is expansive, and that's the whole purpose of life for me.
Right.
And
Right. Yes.
so I just don't think that that's going to be easily replaced.
100%. And so to tie that up, they say, well, you know, humans that don't use AI are going to be replaced by humans that do. But I would go to argue that AI that doesn't learn how to work with humans
Yeah.
is actually going to be replaced by AI that does.
Yeah.
Because I think that the AI that taps into human consciousness is going to be advanced a lot better than the AI that decides to displace and cut off that very, very valuable well of intelligence.
Yeah, and I really think that I can see, you know, obviously even I use AI, you know, and I can see that it's a great tool, but I can also, I don't know, I kind of envision like there'll be a point where we don't want to stray too far from our humanness. I think just it's a natural sense inside ourselves. It's like when we get too far away, we kind of sense this void. And I think it'll be the same approach with AI. AI will come in as far as it can go, and then we'll kind of be like, it's all feeling a bit artificial. It's not, it's lost that humanness about it.
Right.
And actually, we're kind of naturally repulsed once we get too far away. I feel like that. I don't know how you feel if you use
Absolutely.
it, but I'll use it. It's a great tool, and then sometimes I'll be like, oh, when I can hear a AI-generated information and voice at me, I'm like, I'd rather listen to a human being because I can relate to that.
Right, and they're interesting.
Yeah,
and
you can't recreate it.
No,
Yeah.
and it's they keep you on your toes, right? Because human consciousness can just jump and ebb and flow in directions and ways that are connected to something bigger. That you're right, AI just doesn't have that allure, and it doesn't have it just doesn't operate like that today. I'm not sure that.
Yeah, I know. You know, some people say that one day it might. I don't know. The debate is open.
I know.
For now, I still find humans, like our consciousness is intriguing and able to go in so many different ways and so creative. I don't know.
I know.
I think there's a uniqueness there, and there's a uniqueness in everybody.
Right.
That's the thing too that. I don't know if AI
I
can
love
get
that
to
uniqueness in everybody. Oh my God, can we just go to that? Because I love that, because we screen for that, I say hard skills, soft skills to keep it simple and top line, but it is not simple and top line. Every individual that we source for our clients with this very high intelligence method and process is exactly tied to that, Chelsea. It's exactly tied to how, okay, these are the big things, right?
Yeah.
We want them to know how to do, X skill at X price point, and we want them to be able to, work from X location and have so many years of experience. But those little details, those little culture fits, those little team fits, those other little what we call nuanced criteria, the little things, the little differentiators that make that person not just a top line fit, but the perfect fit.
Yeah.
And on a very, very granular, nuanced level is a much more sophisticated match. It's a much more sophisticated process, and people are sophisticated. And so I've always joked about how people are, the old school way was to sum people up on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Here's my resume.
Yeah.
And we build digital three-dimensional profiles, because you cannot do that. And I mean, you can, but you're going to get a certain product, you're going to get a certain outcome that's limited, and that is not as intelligent, and it's not as multifaceted. And the why to have that is because you get someone that's a real match, you get someone that's a real culture fit, you get someone that has longevity, you obviously increase retention and reduce attrition and all the things, because those little details, right? The devil's in the details, right? And the details of a person, to your point. So important.
I agree totally with what you're saying. I think, again, the old traditional way of looking at it was like, you know, you look at the resume, okay, have they been to this school? Have they got this thing? Have they got these skill sets? And the reality is that, and sometimes we can feel like, well, I'm just part of this workforce or whatever. But actually, the reality is that we are such unique individuals. And, you know, having been a business owner for over 20 years, and I've hired a lot of people and worked with a lot of people, you know, the most important thing is that unique person that comes in with, well, their hard skills, but also their soft skills, their personality. Like each person actually, and when you find that right fit, it's like a relationship. You're like, I'm in love.
100%. And isn't that
You know?
great to be in love?
Yes. And they fit your family, you know, and so particularly, so I can imagine in the corporate it's the same. Like that's ultimately what everybody is, I would imagine. I don't know, as a business owner. They're always looking for that person who's going to fit in, who's just going to like be a part of the team, bring this like, and you love it. I love it when I meet people who just like come into work and they just bring this, I don't know what it is.
The extra.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The extra that you didn't even know you
needed, you wanted.
And you're like, oh my gosh. Like
I'm getting extra.
Yeah, you know, and you know, it could just be part of their personality and the way they come in, or it could be a skill set, it could be anything, but it's so exciting, you know. And then there's people, you know, I would say I've seen, you know, I've had people come in and there's so much opportunity there, but they just are in a very contracted state and they are very lack state and lack-minded. And you're like, I want to give you all these opportunities. And actually people will sometimes, because they're in this lack-minded state, they actually just shut themselves out. It's really interesting, and it's from their personality. Because the same role will then be filled with somebody who's coming in and is like, yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm going to bring you, show you what everything I got, you know, and it's completely different energy.
And a different outcome.
Completely. So I'm one of the hugest proponents of self-responsibility. So what we put out, we get back. So if we approach the world in a very contracted, fearful state, we're going to miss out on opportunities. We're going to, you know, and if you come in with like, let me just do the best I can, let me just see what I can give, like, let me just, you know, then more opportunities come, more connections come. You know, you don't even have to be the best at something. You just need to be open to being like, doing your best.
And that's so, you know, and I love that too. You know, I could go on that, and I could go on with that for so long, because the truth is when you have that kind, I call it a yes person.
Yes.
And yes people,
I love them.
I think really run the world. And they are the ones that make everything possible. And no people are the ones who try to all shut it all down. And I think that being able to nurture someone personally can turn a no person into a yes person. It can release the blockages, release the mentality that's holding them back and all the things.
Yeah, I feel really strongly about this, because I'll tell you, like, I would consider myself a yes person. And, you know, people say, like, how did you start these retreats? Well, I started it as a surf retreat because there was nothing for women. Now, was I the best surfer? Was I a professional surfer? No. You know, was I, you know, qualified? No. You know, but I was like, well, I'm just going to do it. And I did it. And so, you know, people have to wait for this perfection or whatever. So it's just having the like, let's give it a go. I even just called it my project, because I was working doing sales training at the time, and this was my side project, you know.
But how valuable, like, you know, we talk a lot, you know, of course, being a tech company, and just knowing the whole, you know, tech ecosystem. It's about, and then not just tech, right? Any project. It's about trying and failing, being, you know, not being afraid to try and fail. And that is where you're going to be able to get, you know, as a company, as a corporation, as an individual, you're going to be able to reach these new heights, because your team is going to say yes, and they're going to jump in, and they're going to give it all they've got. And if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, then they're going to fail fast, ideally, and move on to the next and learn. And then, of course, all the personal work that has to be done to make that possible, and all the support and great management that has to be done. And of course, just having those individuals that can do that is where where innovation is born, where expansion is born,
Yeah.
and where growth is born, that
Yeah.
makes all the things that we might have never thought possible, if you agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, they're going to be the ones who are always at the cutting edge, at the front, because you have to have that attitude. It's logical. How could you get ahead if you have a no type of attitude? You have to be like, yes, we'll give it a go. We'll try. We'll fail. We'll get up. We'll do it again. We'll learn. We'll get better. Like, there's just, how else are you going to do it?
How
really,
else are you
literally.
right. And that's half the battle.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chelsea. So it's such a pleasure. I mean, is there anything else? I want to also talk about...
We can talk about sustainability if you like.
Oh my God, one of my favorite topics as well.
Because
Okay.
the permaculture, because that's one of the things about just educating people on, I don't know.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite things.
Tell me what you want to cover there, because sustainability is, of course, so core to the ESG side of the house, as we spoke about a little earlier. And so, tell me your thoughts in there.
Oh, I mean, I just, obviously sustainability is a huge topic now, and for me, again, with the retreats, how I've approached it is like, how can we bring it down into a very practical day-to-day level that makes it, we can help educate, I guess, in a way, and maybe give them some inspiration about how that they can contribute to sustainability, because sometimes, again, it can just feel like this huge problem, and how am I going to change it all? And
what's
for
my
me,
piece? What can I do?
That
I can't do anything.
self-responsibility is like,
Right.
maybe I can't change the climate, but
Yes.
what can I do in my little piece of the world? So
My
one
microcosm,
of the things, my
yes.
microcosm, whether that's your apartment or retreat or whatever, we all can make small changes, and I think that's the only way it's going to change, and then hopefully that'll blossom into obviously bigger corporations and bigger changes. But the way we do it here, obviously, is we've really tried to eliminate any single-use plastics.
Great.
And then for me personally, I really got into permaculture, which is a type of permanent agriculture. So it's a self-sustaining agriculture. So rather than using pesticides or fertilizer, which is a huge problem with farming right now because they don't want them to. So this is a type of farming that doesn't need pesticides or fertilizer, and it works with the natural agriculture, like natural ecosystems, to grow food, basically.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So here we've got our food forest, which is one of the simplest forms of permaculture, where you just plant a bunch of different variety of different things. So we've got like cacao, coffee, bananas, papayas, herbs, everything growing, and it all just sort of grows together. You just chop it off once the leaves are there, and they go onto the ground, and they create a bed which then helps retain moisture. It helps fertilize as it breaks down. So we're able to just grow a lot of our own food, and it's just a wonderful way of, one thing I found with permaculture is it's a wonderful way of connecting back into nature. Again, as we've kind of moved into more urban spaces, we move further and further away from literally soil and plants and that. So getting back into the growing cycle of things and walking amongst and being able to pick off a banana off the tree, or corn, or or your turmeric that we, and even like these flowers. So these flowers just grow naturally, and they are blue pea, and they make blue pea tea, which is a wonderful tea. It's, it's got a lot of antioxidants in it. It's great for your eyes. Apparently, it's called clear eye tea, and we just picked them from our garden. And I remember when we were planting the permaculture garden, the guy who was helping assist me with it, he was telling me about this, and I was like, fantastic, I've never heard of this tea.
Wow.
And so we made it. You just literally pour some hot water in, and it tastes wonderful. And it's just, I think there's something magical, again, about connecting in with, plants and understanding our part in nature.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. We have to remember that.
Yeah.
And you said something really interesting. Well, first of all, cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
I'd like to cheers and
Yeah,
taste that.
enjoy.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I had to have a sip right away. It's delicious.
Yeah.
We talked a lot, and Chelsea was really great yesterday. She said, all these billionaires want to just blast us into space. And of course, we're a fan of space, as you know. The name Mothership probably gives it away. But we're still a fan of Earth and humanity and nature and all the things that, to Chelsea's point, she said, what do they expect? How are we going to breathe up there? If we don't have the plants around us and we don't have all the other things. And so I think that, and a lot of people talk about that, like, why are we solving problems there when we really have things to solve here? And I'm always, either or, give me both, let's do both, because why not? And I think it's super cool to explore and to expand to these other ecosystems and to these, other universal places that we just really might not even know are there. There's a lot out in the universe that we just really haven't explored.
Oh, yeah.
But, there's a lot here too, to your point, that we could really continue to explore, that we could continue to expand on, and that we can preserve and sustain, rather than having to think that we're just going to blow it up and run to Mars. I think
that's my point. I love space, and there are so many valuable things out there, and they're making so many new discoveries out in space, and space fascinates me too.
Right.
But one of the things I do feel like is that sometimes it's sort of just feeling like, oh well, we've screwed this one up, let's keep going.
Yeah, let's just keep going.
Whereas I think I think Mother Earth is very forgiving, and I think if we can really find a way to work in synergy, just like with everything, if we can find a way to work in synergy, it's a gift that will keep on giving.
Right.
So again, it's just moving away from the older model of just like take and then not give back. But there are, it's just a shift. It's just a shift in mentality. And I think one of the nice things I think is coming to a place like this where we are out in nature, we can also remember that, we as humans are part of nature. We're an animal,
Right.
We are at our most fundamental.
Right.
And so there is something, again, I feel like intrinsic when we come out here, we start to sense that. And I always find it really interesting. Sometimes we have guests who are really afraid of
Bugs.
Small things that can't hurt them. And I'm like, well, that's a really good edge, because we're a part of nature, and it's like, and there's nothing here that can really hurt you, really, apart from a mosquito bite,
Right, exactly,
but,
exactly.
So I was thinking, this is a great time, if we do have that kind of like, oh my gosh, being out in nature is so foreign to us, it's a great opportunity to get back in it, because I feel like there's something actually kind of naturally healing it, because if we can realize that we are part of an ecosystem,
right,
just like being a part of a community and everything, it sort of helps us to orientate ourselves in the right way. And I feel like the correct way for us to orientate ourselves is that we need nature.
Right.
We need it.
Right.
We cannot shoot off into space and breathe and eat out there, but it's all here, right here, right there. We've got what we need to eat there. We've got water to drink there. We've got air to breathe here.
Oh, I
love this. And if we orientate us, we understand where we're orientated.
Right.
Things are okay.
It's so special, Chelsea, because this goes further, right? And when we talk about it, right, the point is to also realize that sustainability mentality of managing the microcosm to affect the macrocosm is where it's at. And we do this with our technology and our communities, right? So we, our technology can now, as I said, be white labeled as an intranet, so people can manage, nurture, expand their current workforce first. To your point, right? Like, why go outside when you've got gold inside that you're not nurturing, or you have silver that could be gold if you nurtured it, and if you knew it was there, and you took the time, or you had the intelligence, or you had the technology that helped you to, and services, right, that helped you to really maximize the value of that community, deliver more to that community. So that's where, you might have somebody working for you that's a marketer, but, with our technology, with our services, and with this kind of mind and process in place, you could now diversify that person's skill set into something else that you could leverage another time within the organization. And what the usual way of doing things is, oh, I've got a great marketer here, but now I need someone with an executive assistant skill set, so I'm going to go externally source outside of my community for that person, rather than, and the marketing person probably needs additional income. They could probably use some additional skill sets, even for their own growth and etc. And so instead, it's this disposable society mentality of next and what's out there versus what's in here. And that can apply to a person, that can apply to an organization, to a community, to obviously a nature ecosystem. And so the whole point is, what do you have here first? What can you nurture? What can you glean and utilize from what you have, and then source externally where the holes are, but only when there's really holes, not just because that is your modus operandi.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely a huge believer in that. And Leslie was talking about when you find those people who are gold. We do that here. Like, we have team members who have been here for 20 years, 14 years, and they've started off in different positions.
Right.
And, one of our main ones, Joyce, she started off in a completely different position. But as we've also grown and she's growing, we've realized like different roles. She's had different skill sets, so we've moved her into different roles, which works for her too, because after a certain period of time, she wants a new challenge.
Right. People get bored.
So they do. So we're like, don't go away. Don't leave us, because we love you.
You have something else
Let's look at, like, would you like to try, moving into this angle and trying different things. And so that's I'm a huge believer in that. And it keeps, because it's like the last thing you want to say is like, have a diamond leave your workplace because they're bored and they're not feeling like they're growing. Right. And it's also too, in like the amount of time and effort it takes to onboard find good new team people, onboard them,
integrate them into
it's huge investment.
It's such a money and time loss and all the things.
And it's hugely disappointing if it doesn't work out.
Right.
And there's
an emotional effect.
It does completely. So it's like, definitely that's how we view our team, is like, let's work, and let's try and
expand and sustain on what we've got,
and grow
and get more out of what we've got,
and be aware of our team and see when they and that is partly about having that emotional human connection and communication, is to understand when that understanding, okay, you have this skill set too, and then understanding when they want to grow as well. So being able to see them as emotional as well as professional people.
Right.
Like, you can't separate the two.
No, and it's not good business to separate the two, and it's actually a really unintelligent strategy. It's
very
right?
inefficient.
And it's really it's like a Neanderthal way of thinking, for lack of a better term. It's like that lizard brain versus the bigger brain,
rather than that kind of like what we're talking about, that consciousness, like really highest consciousness sort of finds synergy and synchronicity and finds solutions, like you say, those creative solutions.
Right. And diverse.
So to find that within there, rather than just being like, you're this position, that's it, and like,
let me go, find someone new, right? And that's where we say, people talk about the supply issue and the workforce supply issue.
Yeah.
And we say it's not a supply issue, it's a diversification of skills issue, and it's a nurturing issue. And it's really a sustainability, to your point, issue, where you're just not maximizing what you've got. And so you've got less because you're not doing that. So how about you get more? And I'm sure it feels good to have more. And it just takes putting some of these things in place in order to do so.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chels.
Definitely.
Such a pleasure. So tell me, we're going to expand on anything else, but I think we're going to give you a little tour of the property, because we're sitting right now in the yoga shala, and this is a beautiful space where everybody does yoga, and of course surrounded by this beautiful sustainable ecosystem that Chelsea is created here, and she's nurturing here as well. So thank you, Chels, for all the great things that you're doing for women like me, and for people in the workforce, and just for humans, even those that obviously that don't work. There's lots of them too, by the way, and just that are maybe just doing other work on themselves, or just living their life to the fullest. And so cheers to you. Anything else you want to cover today, and tell our audience about you and about anything that you want to cover?
No, I'm all good.
You good? I think we did. We covered a lot. We covered a lot,
We're good,
right?
yeah.
But any questions,
Oh,
of
great.
course, leave them in the comments. Like, comment, share. We'd love to hear from you about your perspective. About perhaps things that we're not thinking of that we could do, that we could bring to the world and to you as the workforce that sustains us, that is the backbone of all of our economies, and that makes a lot possible. And really, that makes everything possible today. And AI is going to do more. So we say, look, let's diversify the skill sets of the amazing humans we have. Of course, we'll augment with AI so that we could take some of that heavier work off the back of humans, allow humans to access that higher mind, that creator self that is capable of so much more than some of the more menial things. But of course, we all learn from the menial things too. So it's an interesting time, an exciting time.
Exciting time.
Right? And so the point is to do it mindfully and to do it with a sustainability perspective and mindset. So cheers to you, Charles.
Cheers
Thank
to
you
you.
so much for
Thank you
having
so much
me.
for coming.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Cheers. Are my eyes blue?
Might see
Thank
clearer.
you. I might see clearer, exactly.
I keep
Cheers
drinking
to all
it.
of you. Thanks, Charles.
You're welcome.